Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football. We're just a couple of days on from England's defeat in the final of Euro 2024 and the fallout has begun. Gareth Southgate has left as England boss after 8 years in charge. In a statement from Gareth himself, he said, "As a proud Englishman, it has been the honour of my life to play for England and to manage England. It has meant everything to me and I've given it my all, but it's time for change and for a new chapter. The squad we took to Germany is full of exciting young talent and they can win the trophy we all dream of. We have the best fans in the world and their support has meant the world to me. I'm an England fan and I always will be. I look forward to watching and celebrating as the players go on to create more special memories and to connect and inspire the nation as we know they can. Thank you, England, for everything." Micah Richards is with me to reflect on this breaking news. Alan Shearer's got his trotters up somewhere in the sunshine. Micah, we thought we were going to have a couple of days off, but this is obviously it's a big moment, big breaking news. So we wanted to get on and discuss our thoughts. I'm not overly surprised. I thought it might take a bit longer. I thought he might have a good thing, but I'm not overly surprised. I think it must be very draining being the coach of a national team.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we have to congratulate him on bringing the harmony to the camp, dealing with all sorts of different issues within the camp, speaking so eloquently on topics which maybe certain managers in the past would have just sort of, I don't know what the best word to say is, but just put it to the side, I would say. And I feel like he approaches everything.
What sort of issues are you talking about? Perhaps the way the players were treated after the thing?
Yes, whether that be, race, whether that be like social issues. In terms of that, I feel he's dealt with those issues better than anybody else. So I would like to congratulate him on that. It feels sad, if I'm being totally honest, because for someone who's such a top human being, you want them to do so well in life. And he's done a magnificent job from where they were to where they are or where he's left them. He's left them in a way better position. I think I agree with you. It's become draining. I think at times he's found it very hard to get his philosophy across because he's had to deal with so much things and the pressure of the English manager. So an example of that, all the fans were crying out for Trent Alexander-Arnold to play. He puts him in, and then we're all talking about Trent's not a midfielder, and then in the system that we play, it doesn't suit him. Then he's stuck with Trippier at left back, but Trippier's been dependable. He leaves out Jack Grealish because he's always said he wanted to play people on form. That was an issue. So I feel like going into the tournament, no matter what he did, was never going to be good enough unless he won it. Yeah. And as for the scrutiny, when you're not playing free-flowing football, you have to win the tournament. Otherwise, we have to scrutinise the way they play. But as a person, as a man, where he's taken England, he's done an amazing job. I just feel for him and for everyone moving forward, it was definitely the right decision.
I would concur with pretty much all you've said there, Micah. I think he was the right man at the right time. And don't forget the pickle England were in when he took over. Correct. We just lost to Iceland. The team came home in sort of footballing disgrace. And he's picked up... And he's brought, as you said quite rightly, a harmony to the squad and also an affinity restored from fans to footballers, which was also lost. So he got that. And then he made England competitive again. Now, obviously, we started to get talent coming through, this young, rich vein of talent that we have. And, he went close. He went very close. But we all know Gareth was a defender for England, and he was a defender in mind when he was a coach. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it nearly won England a tournament. I mean, they missed out by the narrowest of margins in a penalty shootout 3 years ago. They went close again in this final, although the best team won, we know that. Spain were the best team by far. But I think altogether, the problems... We spoke to Rio Ferdinand, didn't we, recently? And he was saying how the kind of so separated and cliquey the whole England squad was, that players from Manchester United sat on one table, players from Liverpool sat on another table, players from Arsenal sat on another table. He's brought togetherness in that squad that is actually quite joyous and glorious. And that has been one of the reasons why England have become very competitive. So he leaves England in really, really good shape. Way better shape than when he took the job on all those years ago. And he deserves massive credit for that. And I agree with you, Micah, as well, that, you know, he's such a decent man that it feels a little bit sad. But I think he can definitely hold his head high. You know, like all managers in all jobs, particularly national team managers, they get criticism from time to time. But I think he always took it in the right way. And I think he's got a legacy, and the legacy will be that this group of young players will go on to bigger and better things. He's just a lovely, lovely human being, and wish him all the very best in the future. You know, people say today, I've spoke to people in the street and they said, you know, why do you think it was? I mean, I've actually had journalists coming on saying, do you think it's because of what you said on The Rest is Football in the start of the tournament? Honestly, I mean, they constantly try to put a wedge between us and players and management. I mean, just the silliness of it.
That's unfair. Before you go on, guys, that is totally unfair. We know that the listeners were growing throughout the tournament. We have been nothing but supportive of England, the players, and the manager. If you come out and you say in a jokey way that England weren't great, and then we break down the game as to why they wasn't great, that is totally fine.
Of course it is. We were critical at times because you can't say when a team is not playing very well that they played well. If they played awfully, you say they played awfully. And they did in the early part of the tournament. There's no question about that. But then to try and make it that that's the reason, the criticism is the reason he's gone. It's not that. It's not that at all. You know, we speak to the players and, you know, they totally understand where it's coming from. And obviously the one thing we've always wanted to do is be fair. And I think we've been unquestionably fair on England. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's time for a change. I think probably for Gareth's well-being as well, because it must be such a tough job, the England job. And it's the same with other national team managers. And, you know, even though obviously it's not the day-to-day toughness because it's a different kind of job, but the pressure, the expectation on an England manager to win things. And even though he's been to 2 finals, you know, I think it's the desperation to win a bloody trophy that makes it even harder probably to get that first trophy. And I think if we ever do, then it'll go on from that. And he went so close.
What a story it would have been, though, as well. I mean, we talked about De La Fuente of Spain coming through the younger ages, the 19s and the 21s, and then going to do the full men's national team. It would just have been a great story for an underdog. All the devastation from the penalty miss all those years ago for Southgate to then get us to a final, and then it would have just been a Cinderella end, wouldn't it? But football's not like that. Football sometimes is cruel. You have highs and lows. But he can be proud in the way he's handled himself. And some of the football at times has been very good. If you look at the game in the quarterfinals in the World Cup, England actually played very well.
Very well in that game.
It's just the fact that with the players we have, we didn't seem to have moved forward at the pace in which we all expected. So, yeah, good luck to Gareth. All the best in the future.
What do England do now? Micah. I mean, the lack of English options. There are a couple. There are a few. But obviously, Graham Potter has been in the frame. He's actually the bookie's favourite, I saw. And then I've got the bet in here, actually. He's 11-4. Lee Carsley, 3-1, is the under-21 coach that led them to success. Eddie Howe, 7-2. And then after that, the only other Englishman in the frame is possibly Frank Lampard at around 20-1. And then you've got Pochettino, Klopp, Tuchel in between them. Should the English team have an English coach?
It's a very good question, that, guys. For me, I don't think they should have to have an English manager. I think it would be better because if the team were to go on and win it, it would feel like it's one of your own. You know, when you're coming through the academy and you go to make your debut as a local lad, it just feels that much more special. So ideally, yes, an Englishman, but I wouldn't be reluctant to look elsewhere. I think
possibly with one or two of the three managers, particularly that I mentioned there, Klopp, Tuchel, and Pochettino. They've all had real experience of Premier League football. I think before that wasn't the same, was it? With Sven and Capello, they came out, and I think that's kind of, you know, they don't quite understand the footballing culture, the footballing ethos, and perhaps expectation of this country. But I've always thought England should have an English coach. I think there's no other really major nation in football, with the possible exception of Portugal. France have never had anything but a French coach. Spain have never had anything but a Spanish coach. Germany have never had anyone but a German coach. Brazil, Argentina, the big powers, they've always managed to find one. We do genuinely have a problem that we're not creating or bringing on top English coaches. We talked a bit about that at the end of the last podcast, which I think is down to possibly the kind of archaic way we played football up until recently. And we've transformed academies and players are learning different skills. The coaches, I think, will follow after that. But there are a few around, obviously, the ones we've mentioned already. But
guys, I think when we talk about English or British managers, I feel what we do in the media, and sometimes we can be guilty of this ourselves. So Lampard goes to Derby, does a very good job at Derby, bringing youngsters through. They should have went up that season, and it didn't quite get him up in that season. He goes to Chelsea. He has a transfer embargo against him. He still finishes in the Champions League. Steven Gerrard goes to Rangers, wins the league after how many different years. So we've got Potter, who played outstanding football at Brighton. We talk about rotations and systems and attacking football. He played that. Eddie Howe did a fantastic job at Bournemouth in terms of where they started and where they finished. Okay, in the end, they got relegated, didn't they? But they had a style of play and the budget that he was working with. Does so well at Newcastle. Again, at times they're restricted now because of the money that they can spend. What happens in England is we overhype managers too soon. So Steven Gerrard gets the Aston Villa job too soon. And that doesn't mean he's a bad manager. I don't think it was too soon for him. I just don't think they gave him much of a chance. Well, yes, exactly. But he didn't get enough of a chance. He comes with a big aura of being Steven Gerrard. Everyone expects Steven Gerrard, the player, to be the same as a manager. That's never going to be the case. Managers need time. I think Lampard going back to Chelsea the second time didn't help him. Now, people have got subconsciously...
I think he recognises that himself.
They've got that thing of, he's not a good manager. He doesn't know what he do. These players, ex-players who turned managers, just need time to be able to develop. The question you ask, who's next in line, is so difficult because there's no one really who you would be confident and say...
Well, the thing is, what I was saying, I suppose, about the English thing is not possibly because they've not been given a chance for long enough. But, if you look at the titles won with English managers, even with the Premier League, you have to go back before the Premier League. So it was Howard Wilkinson, wasn't it, in the last year before it changed. So, we've not really produced that, but maybe because they don't get a chance, we've heard. But, they have had chances. But I think someone like, I always thought, I know Frank Lampard really well. He's incredibly intelligent. He really gets the game. His analysis that he's worked with us is superb. I'd be more than comfortable with Frank in charge. I'd be more than comfortable with Eddie Howe. I think his kind of football we've seen at Newcastle, it's really attacking. It's forward thinking, and he plays the high press a lot of the time. So, Graham Potter's been out of the game for a little while now. It didn't happen for him at Chelsea, but we know Chelsea was a mess. So, I've always been of the thought that it should be an English manager if possible. But if you said to me, Jurgen Klopp would do it or Pep Guardiola would do it, which I suspect they wouldn't, I might be wrong, you'd have to go, oh, blimey. That's a little bit different because they are absolutely proven an elite. Jurgen Klopp is obviously not working at the moment. I think he wants to take time out anyway. It might not be the right timing for him. I think he's turned down 1 or 2 jobs offers already, including America, I believe. But if either of those were available, you'd go, ooh, wow.
Exactly.
But I think it might come down to the English boys, and I think they could do a job. I think the important thing that when they address it and who it should be, obviously Gareth was a defensive-minded coach. He's tactically he was kind of cautious, and that's it nearly worked, but not quite in the end. But I think next time, because of the way all these young players play for their clubs, high up the pitch, pressing, different kinds of ways, but basically aggressive front foot football, they need a coach that will take them there. They're in a great state. You've got to 2 finals, a quarter final of the World Cup and the semi-final of the World Cup. So there's, it's going to be difficult because winning tournaments is so hard. But, the next appointment is obviously, it's vital.
The only thing I would say is international football can be different. You could have a complete idea of how the team wants to play. I totally agree with you. We said it from the start. If Southgate was to step down, we have to go with an attacking manager. But I think we shouldn't rush as well. I don't think we should rush the decision because you got the World Cup coming up in 2 years. We got some of the players who are going to be banging form. When we talk about
the qualifiers will start, I suspect, in September. So, do you need someone in charge for that? It's
you should do, of course. Yes, you should do. But
you could put someone, like a Lampard in, just carry it through for that stage, and then because he's obviously not in work at the moment, and then 2 or 3 games in, you might go, wow, this is quite good, or the opposite. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. If you don't want to rush it,
I would be on the side of just don't rush it. Make sure you've got everything, because what we don't want, and I heard Jamie Carragher talking about, we're not used to winning, so we don't have a divine right.
Oh, no one has a divine right.
What I would say to that is this particular era now with the players that we have, I believe we do have a divine right to be playing good football, attacking football, a team that knows how to win, is not afraid of going up against the big nations, and just sort of flipping that mentality because you're going to a tournament thinking we're up against France or Spain or whoever it may be, they're going to have the arrogance. But when we won the league with Man City, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, it goes on and it goes on. If we never thought we could get to that level, then what was the point even trying? Yeah. I think we have to have a manager and players all aligned thinking, we have the best squad. There's no reason why we can't go and win.
I agree.
And we have to have the attitude, confidence and mentality. And I know Jude gets a lot of stick for when he said, who else? And, he's got that sort of, but that's the arrogance you need to win football matches, and that's exactly the reason why he's at Real Madrid. And that's what we need going forward, I believe.
Right. One last question before we move on to something else. Who would you go for? If anyone in the world would say they'd do it.
Anyone in the world?
Yeah, just that. Your first pick.
Just come on, that's easy.
Pep Guardiola.
It's
I
simple.
agree. Before we go today, there's one final thing we wanted to discuss. Through our partnership this summer with EE, we've wanted to highlight the positivity around the home nations and the overall campaign against hate. A question from EE is, what have you guys made of the atmosphere around this England team in comparison to previous tournaments? I think the support's been amazing and, well, very largely well behaved. There was a little incident, wasn't there, when a couple of cups were thrown at Gareth Southgate, which obviously is totally unacceptable. But that aside, I think it's been the most refreshing tournament I think I can remember. We had Scotland fans and England fans that were having a lot of fun, and they were mixing up with the fans from other countries, Netherlands fans, and it was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know it's easy for us to say that, but they've been so respectful around us, around even in the final in Berlin. They was just having a great time. Obviously, after the match, very, very devastated. But in contrast to 3 years ago at Wembley, they deserve huge amount of credit. They really do, because the emotions are up and down, and football's our lives, isn't it? Like now, for a month, we've got no football. Although we got a little bit at the Olympics. Like, I don't know what to do with myself. So for the fans who are hardcore, going up and down the country, flying to Berlin and all around Germany, hats off to you.
Yeah.
Impeccable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was nothing like that incident of 3 years ago after the final at Wembley. We were in the stadium, weren't we, when England lost the final. It was incredible support from England. There was like 75% of the crowd, I would say, were English fans. They were fun, they were singing, and they were hugely respectful, even at the end when Spain had won, and Spanish fans too. And you could see the players on the pitch. They were comforting Spanish players that played perhaps in England with players were comforting English players. I thought it was just a sight to behold. EE are always a proud supporter, from grassroots to all the home nations, and are committed to bringing people together against hate in football with their proud supporter programme. Search EE Proud Supporter to find out more. That's it for this sort of emergency episode. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Have a good week.